What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jason here at the Cowpot Bros. Come let you guys know that the date for the anniversary episode has been set, and it's going to be Thursday, April the 21st, episode 53. Mark your calendars down for that. It's going to be a good show, and the main thing is we want to hear from you. So make sure you continue to send us your messages via cowpotbros.com, the message button there, cowpotbros@gmail.com, 405-877-BROS, or just hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought about the first year of the Cowpot Bros, what you liked, didn't like, favorite moments, favorite segments, what have you. Make sure you get those to us by Thursday, April the 14th, the week before. So make sure we have it in time to get it in for the show, okay? And no matter what, make sure you remember this. When it comes to all things Cowpot Bros, make sure you like us, love us, share us, and follow us. Because if you like us, why wouldn't you?
Welcome back to the Cowpart Bros podcast. Jason and I are fresh off the subject segment and the subject of Amazon guilt. I don't even think some of these people are even feel bad. They just want attention.
No comment.
In the third and final segment of episode 51, we're going to be talking about a show that Jason just would not relent and just let me be. And he insisted that I should watch the first two episodes. And that show is Bel Air. And historically, I do not like remakes. I do not like remakes. I do not like remakes. Like motherfuckers do not like green eggs and ham. Okay. But this is a one time I'm willing to give my co-host credit. It's a good ass show, dog. Bel Air is a good ass show. And the reason it's a good ass show is because it's not a remake in the historical sense. It's a reimagining. The names are the same, but this has an identity of its own. And so first two episodes in, I'm like, okay, the backdrop of the Philly story and how Will ends up in Bel Air. And I realized like, oh shit, okay. Somebody took some thought about how this is going to play out. And it helps that number one, actors were really, really good. From the kids, you know, they nailed it with Jabari Banks. Like, if you don't figure Will out, then this show's dead in the water anyway. But he's Will on his own. Like, I don't feel like it's not the Fresh Prince in 2022. It's something of its own. It's its own animal. And I think that was a smart play. I think, number one, actors, killing it. Music, killing it. Engaging storyline. I mean, I definitely, once I got on board with the first two episodes, I was like, all right, bet, I'm in. When's the next one coming out? And I just slowly but surely started to kind of ramp up and say, okay, like, what's next for this show? And now that the first season is in the can, I'm like, okay, like, I can't wait what you guys have to offer up for season 2. So I just want to give you some props. It's the one time I'm gonna say you was right. And yeah, dog, the show's good. Show's good. And I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts on the first season of Bel Air?
First of all, let me turn my chair this way so I can appropriately give you the side eye.
Here we go.
For everything you just said. First of all, I want to mention this. When it comes to the topic we're talking about right now, this was Terrence's idea to talk about this. Not that I don't want to talk about it, but this is Terrence's idea. He wanted to mention the fact that I had to poke and prod him just to actually get him to watch the first two episodes. That part's true. But Terrence actually wanted to talk about this on his own merits right now. So hey, I will gladly take you're right, Jason, about the show being good, and I will gladly say I told you so. So you're welcome. Question. I have a quick question for you.
What's up?
All the stuff that you said that you liked about the show and what made it good, what would you say if I told you that somebody or multiple people, every reason that you said the show was good, they said those are the exact reasons why the show wasn't good? What would you say to that?
So, for example, individuals said they didn't like the fact that it was a reimagining.
They didn't like the reimagining, didn't like the acting, didn't like the music, didn't they didn't like anything. And like everything you said, everything you just said, 2 minutes ago that you liked about it and was good about the show. Pretty much, I found plenty of reviews saying those are the exact reasons why they didn't like it, which I'll go
Huh.
more into. But yeah,
No,
I want to hear you
it,
respond to that though.
yeah, I would say it sounds like they expected the same damn show 30 years later. That's the only response that I can think of why someone wouldn't enjoy this reimagining. Is that they, and of course people have a romanticized idea about the property that is the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Great fucking show. James Avery, uber talented. Um, and that's just one guy. I mentioned him because I loved him in Fresh Prince, and I also loved him in some of this animated stuff for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I I feel like there's a lot of black star power, and of course that's where the world got introduced to Will Smith, and a grateful nation thanks them for that. Um, but I don't look at that as a reason to not appreciate what's being done with the new version that is not even remotely a comedy or a sitcom. You feel me? Totally a
Mm-hmm.
drama.
What was the fact that it wasn't the same as the original, or the fact that it wasn't the same genre, the same as the original one, or close to it? Is that one of the reasons why you were hesitant to watch it originally?
I think the reason I was hesitant to watch it is because in general, I the last remake that people tried to get me on board with was when Roseanne came back, and that was a fucking dumpster fire.
Well, that's not even a remake, bro. So that was more like a continuation of the previous show. So I wouldn't even call that a remake.
See, I this is where we're gonna get really fucking nerdy, and this is why we probably haven't talked TV shows a lot on Cal Park Bros. Is
Which is going to
because
change in the future, by the way.
yeah, because for me, I did never considered it to be a continuation necessarily because they basically like retconned that Dan dies. And for me, I
Okay,
was like, hold up, fam. Like, you can't even talk about the Roseanne show without John Goodman. Like, I'm not cool with acting like motherfuckers didn't even exist. And so I kind of mentally checked out as soon as that was presented. And the fact that Roseanne Barr kind of self-destructed on her own, and they kind of had to improvise and then turn it into the Connors. So it's just like, yeah, I'm out.
okay, fair enough. Um, so just my personal thoughts about the show, and we'll go more into reviews of the show a little bit later. But my thoughts on the show, I was on board from the jump. I liked before I even saw the first episode. I liked the idea, the fact that it was different. I like we just mentioned. I don't consider this a reboot or remake because yes, there are plenty of aspects of Bel Air that correlate to probably the important aspects of the Fresh Prince. Obviously, all the names are the same. The general premise of got one little fight in Philly, mom moved into Bel Air. That general premise is still the same. I think you couldn't change that. You had to keep that part the same to make it work. But all the little small things, I think, will make it good. A lot of the characters are still the same. Not the main character. The main characters are well. Even that's not true. A lot of the small changes, even to the main characters, I think, will make the show kind of cool. Even from the fact, I said, Will's obviously the same basketball player, Philly, good grades, charmer, people love him. That part's the same. But from everybody else, Uncle Phil is not a bigger guy. It's like he's a dark skinned, good looking, somewhat in shape black man.
The fuck are you trying to
So
say?
you heard me, dog. But but I'm saying it's a difference. Hillary, she's not a ditz. She's actually, even though she's still opposed to working, just like in the like actual work, just like in the actual Fresh Prince of Bel Air, but she's not a ditz. She's actually trying to come up in the social media world. So there's that. Also, you have Ashley, who, and this is what another thing some people say they don't like, the fact
Oh
that
yeah.
the fact that Ashley in Bel Air is you know outwardly, or at least started to come out outwardly as a character, part of the LGBTQ community. So there's that as well. Jazz, Jazz isn't necessarily a best friend of Will necessarily. It's just somebody who happened to be his Uber driver and got him to the house, and they connected and bonded that way. But I also like the fact though that Jazz and Hillary still had that connection, but it's more of like it's mutual. They're feeling each other as opposed to Hillary trying to push him away. It's just some of those small differences there. There's still a Trey in the show. Trey, who was played by Don Cheadle in The Fresh Prince of Bel Air way back then. The fact that they finally introduced Will's dad in the show, originally played by Ben Vereen in The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, now played by Marlon Wayans in this one. So there's a lot of big differences, whatnot, a lot of similarities. Probably another big difference I saw people didn't like was the fact that Carlton had a drug problem in Bel Air. I saw people that didn't like that as well. Um, but again, I actually like those small differences because I thought it was kind of cool. People want to. I know when it came out, there were jokes about them trying to make Fresh Prince into like a dark comedy. Saturday Night Live did this whole thing skit about making Family Matters a dark a dark thing where Urkel was like like shooting people stuff like that, which that was pretty funny actually. But that notwithstanding, I actually like the show. I wasn't expecting too much from the show, so not like I was expecting anything Oscar worthy or nothing like that. Um,
Well, not now. Shit.
yeah, definitely not. Yeah, this show might not be getting an Oscar for a while just because of who it's attached to. So, um, but yeah, I like the show. I thought it was really good. Like you, I'm looking forward to season 2. I have a feeling about what direction, at least some of the, I mean, definitely the last 2 episodes of Bel Air season 1, they're giving you storylines for what's going to happen as far as storyline wise for season 2. I think the biggest one is probably going to involve Will and his dad somehow. I kind of feel like you can't really escape that too much. Personally, that's just me. Um, but yeah, so another thing I do want to say though, I did read a lot of reviews when it comes to, but basically, long story short, and I get more into it. I want to let you jump in. When it comes to sites like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, things like that, they did not give a whole lot of love to this show, as well as some other entertainment sites as well. But what I think I kind of touched on this before, but perhaps you can go into your thoughts on this. What do you think, before I even go into it, where do you think the issues that some of the experts and professionals who do this for a living, what do you think their thoughts were when it comes to why they thought it wasn't very good?
Hmm. That's a good question. I mean, I've never really fixated on, at least for this particular show. Like, listen, typically, I don't, I don't pay particularly close attention to stuff like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or any of that shit for TV shows. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's something that people probably care more about for like movies, like your blockbusters. For me, it's just got to be like, okay, I, it's more organic, it's more word of mouth. I think that's how this happened. You know, Universal dropped those first 2 episodes for free right after the Super Bowl, right? And then word of mouth got around about a month after. Say, hey man, this is a really good show. Hey man, it's a really good show. And then, of course, I got assholes like you telling me, hey man, Bel Air's a pretty good show. You should check it out. And then I finally do in March. And then that's what I just hit it in the binge mode, dog. I just put that shit in high gear. I was like, okay, that was good. I feel like if a show is 60 minutes and it can hold my attention, and or if I hear a song I like I had Shazam out like a motherfucker for those first two episodes. I'm like, okay, I don't know who the hell this is, but I might have to add this to the playlist. And I can appreciate they definitely, it's like, hey, they took some of the Philly music when he's in Philly, and they took some of the California vibe, music once he's out in Bel Air. And so I appreciated that because I love music from both areas. Um, I also like that the show touches on the fact that because the family is wealthy and black, they're dealing with issues of wealth and class. You got motherfuckers back from their hometown, basically saying, "Hey, man, you forgot about us." That internal community strife when people want something better for themselves, but also at the same time, you got someone trying to tell you that you're not really down. Jason, you and I have dealt with that where people feel like, okay, are you really black? Just because you like certain fucking ice cream or types of music or other whack shit like that. And so I think that resonates with dudes like us and other black men, and black women to that extent too. I mean, there is a lot of, you know, strong black women in this show. Um, I do think it's fucking wild that people got pissed off that Ashley, who is how old in the fucking show again? What, like 14?
No, not even that young. I think she's like I think it's like she's like pre high school, it's maybe 12, 13. So yeah.
It's okay. So she's 12, 13. She is finding herself. She's actually confiding with an older sibling about those feelings. And so basically it would have been cool if she was into dudes, is what I'm hearing. Basically is what I'm hearing.
You know what? So when it comes to that specifically, I don't think people are so much mad at the general thought of this character doesn't like dudes as more of, and even though I haven't seen this necessarily, well, actually I did, so take that back. So what it is, people are really tired of what they say is the agenda or the gay agenda when it comes, yeah. And folks, it's not me saying that. That's just what people are putting out there, and I'm repeating it, quotations wise. Tired of that. They're tired of that agenda when it comes to why does every show have to have a gay character on it now? Blah 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 blah. Well, and to that I say maybe it's not an agenda. Maybe it's just them being more realistic when it comes to what people are actually dealing with. Right? It's not like Ashley's character is 5 years old, and not to diminish anybody who is still going through that at 5 years old. But by the time someone turns 12, they probably already have a pretty good idea of, hey, this is a certain way I'm feeling one way or another. So it's not like new to that. But the fact that she's actually outwardly talking about this and asking about, like you said, with one of her siblings, someone older, someone she can confide in, I think that's important as well. Because there's so many individuals who are of that age, male or female, who for whatever reason don't, or they feel like they can't confide in anybody. So they don't. They keep it to themselves. And that's when, unfortunately, where it's potentially self harm can come into play. And obviously, no one wants that. So anybody thinks that Bel Air or any other show has some type of agenda, needs to just calm down and stop it. All right. If you've never, or either way, did you ever once say that same thing by having too many black people on TV? Did you ever say, hey, why don't they stop with this black agenda? I mean, if you did, I guess you'd be consistent. But if you never did, why is there an agenda for this but not anything else? So, but speaking of the acting, you mentioned earlier that, and I agree, that you have to get Will right. Because if that doesn't work, then it's messed up. Because Will's a whole premise of the show in general. And the one thing I found the most interesting about that, for multiple aspects, considering Will Smith actually produced this, you mentioned Jabari, who played Jabari Banks, I believe it is, um, who played Will Smith. He doesn't have any other acting credits. Like, this is his first ever acting role.
Yeah, that was a big to do as well. Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
great.
wow, okay. And like I said, considering this is his first acting role, I think he did a very good job of playing the role. But also, too, the other kid actors as well, particularly Carlton, and played by, I think his name's Ali, and then Akira, who plays Ashley, they also have very few acting credits. Ali has only been in one other thing before this, as well as Akira. Akira, I believe, actually played in Captain Marvel. Yeah, she did. Played in Captain Marvel. She was um, Captain Marvel's friend's daughter. Remember that? That was her.
Oh, okay, cool.
Exactly. Coco Jones plays Shirley Banks. She's had a few more roles. Nothing really put a claim to fame on. Kind of the same thing with Cassandra Freeman, who plays Vivian Banks. Kind of the same thing. She's been in other stuff, but nothing like claim to fame wise. Adrian Holmes, who plays Philip Banks, he's probably a little more accomplished when it comes to certain things. But definitely, it's a very, I don't want to say unseasoned cast. I don't want to say that per se, but really, just nothing really acclaimed to fame really up until this for all of them, especially Jabari. So I think that kind of adds to the goodness of the show, frankly. But even though you don't necessarily believe in IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes for TV shows, when it comes to the ratings on that, which I believe IMDb leads, that's based off viewer ratings, and the viewer ratings only have the show at a 6.3 out of 10. So it had me wondering, okay, why are people saying exactly they don't like the show? And it's pretty much what I was telling you, all the stuff you said you liked about it, they were saying they didn't like about it. Certain headlines of people's reviews say, I just can't do this, utter garbage, cringy, horrible, cringy acting. It's so bad, makes me hate the original one. Why not create just a brand new show? The Prince is not fresh, horrible. I think some of you are missing the point. That person actually gave it a 10. But from any perspective, it's bad. I wanted to like this, but I couldn't. Uh, Start off strong, then comes to the agenda pushing, which goes in what I was talking about. And pretty much all those negative reviews I gave, all those people gave the show either a 1, 2, or 3 star out of 10. Um, when it comes to some of the professional people, when it comes to like Entertainment Weekly, Cinema Blend, Vulture, whatever like that, they kind of get more, I don't want to say nuanced, but they have kind of a more in depth approach when it comes to why they don't like it. In particular, I want to find the one from Entertainment Weekly in particular. There we go. And I'll keep this real quick here. Even in the dramatic context, Bel Air could use more of that sardonic spirit. There are stray moments of observational hilarity, um, but uh, Bel Air is just too much, representing that old rebooting instinct to make everything extra something. Do we really need a cool Carlton, a sexy Uncle Phil, or a sad Will? Bel Air wants to modernize its source material, but I worry the main appeal for the post Super Bowl crowd will be posting side eye social memes. It's the opposite of fresh. Now, I do want to point out that, which probably doesn't matter, but that review was posted back on February 9th from people who actually saw the show before it released. So, um, again, I have a couple others, but I want to hear your general thought about what I just said. There's one more in particular I want to read, especially that touches on something you said. But what's your thought about that original excerpt I read from Entertainment Weekly?
My first thought is handling, uncomfortable subjects like drug abuse doesn't necessarily mean that the show is trying to be edgy. I think about, and speaking of fucking IMDb, guess what I'm looking at right now? Different Strokes, The Bicycle Man. Remember that? Remember that fucking episode, Jason?
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, Different Strokes was handling a very mature subject, which is, of course, uh, child abuse, like sexual assault, in 1983, for Christ's sake. So My first thought when I hear people talking about how edgy a show is trying to be, Bel Air is not the first fucking show that's tried to cover a very real issue as part of a dramatic interpretation. So it seems like that particular reviewer is just taking pop shots at it because it wasn't the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and you just can't hold this. You can't hold that against this show.
This last one I do want to read because again it touches on something you mentioned a minute ago. This is from vulture.com, and it's a review they made dated February 13th, the day that it came out. I'm sure they reviewed it before. But anyway, within its marketing and the visual landscape of the show itself is obsessed with royalty. Time and time again, Will is shown in daydreams wearing a golden crown atop a throne. At one point, his mother says, "Your crown is still waiting, son. Get ready to wear it." Bel Air may glance at a watered down ideas that appear to speak with care toward the tangled dynamics within the black community, but the royalty imagery is a tell indicating where the politics and interests of the show truly lie, not with breaking the systems, but by becoming their masters. It's a reminder that when racial progress is measured by black people gaining entry into white spaces, whether Hollywood or in moneyed streets of Bel Air, it perpetuates the very ideas of whiteness and power that created those systems in the first place. Your thoughts, sir?
It's a fucking think piece.
Right. Which, and I really think when it comes to, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I kind of think when it comes to like Entertainment Weekly, and part of this is what they're paid to do. But when it comes to Entertainment Weekly, Vulture, Cinema Blend, whatever, I feel like they're taking like a deep dive into the show and potentially looking for a way to just trash it, or in some cases make it look great. But I will say, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot, probably a lot of people watch the show. I never once thought about that with this show. I never once thought of the negative connotations, if there were any, which I don't know if there really was, to the show when it comes to how good it is for black people to be imaged this way, or how negative it is for black folks to be imaged this way. Because I really never looked at the show as anything like that. When it comes to the issues they portrayed, when it comes to issues specifically for black people, I felt like not that they were saying anything new, but I felt like they were really just saying stuff that's pretty real and accurate, without being over the top when it comes to whatever you want to put out there. I felt like the show wasn't over the top in any aspect whatsoever, and that's why I liked it. I found it entertaining. I too am looking forward to season 2 and see where they go with it. But yeah, I feel like certain people were taking too deep dives in it. Maybe it's because, like I said, because they're paid to do it. But I never thought that about the show. I definitely encourage anyone who hasn't watched it and who's kind of on the fence about it, or anybody that has that in their watch list, go ahead and watch it. Like just like I told Terrence, watch one episode and see what you think.
Yeah, it was probably one of the better decisions I made, actually, in 2022 so far. So I think that's a perfect bow on this segment. Great chat. Looking forward to season 2. Seeing what other crazy shit goes down in Bel Air. And with that, we'll wrap up the show.